you, and welcome back to the second episode of the Miss Michaela Mae Show. I'm your host, Miss Michaela Mae. And if you listened to the first episode or have listened to my show, the Western Hippie Podcast, you know that I have my corgis, Tank and Willie, here with me. So if you hear paw prints in the background, it's a corgi. And today we are going to talk about why and how Taylor Swift has changed and that you can too. And the reason that I was inspired and called to talk about this episode is because the changes I've seen in Taylor, I've seen in myself at a different part of my life. And I think we have in our culture specifically, we have a really hard time differentiating between the trauma self and the true self. And especially in our culture, with feminism and a few other things, we have a really hard time admitting that a woman can potentially be better when she is with a man. And I am saying this as someone who at one point in my life believed I would have been better off without a man. I wanted a partner, I wanted a man, but I didn't think I was better off with one. So I avoided it like the plague until as things do someone or something comes into your lap that maybe you didn't expect. And that was what happened to me when I was 19. It was kind of an interesting time in my life, and one of the things that happened, and when I look back on that time in my life, it was the first time in my life I'd really started to prioritize myself and put myself first, and I was taking care of myself. And in that time, just didn't even think about boys or a relationship, which is typically how it happens. And then a girl that I had known introduced me to her brother, and we had started dating. And it took, I would say, there's a longer version of the story that I'm not going to get into. You'll have to read my book for the long version of the story. But the short version of the story is about 3 to 4 weeks in. I had started rediscovering parts of myself that I had suppressed for a very long time, and suppressed to the point that I didn't even know that they were there anymore. And the night that I realized this was happening, it was actually the night of his birthday, and he had had a really long day at work, and it was during the work week, and he didn't know if he really wanted to do anything or not. And I was like, well, I would really like to just see you or give you a hug for your birthday, or just something for your birthday. This seems very important. In my book, it is very important. And so he ended up coming. I was at the bowling alley with my mom because where he worked, my mom used to bowl every Thursday. And so I just said hey, I'll ride into the bowling alley with my mom and you can just pick me up there, because where the bowling alley was to where I live was a half hour apart. So it just kind of made 25 minutes maybe. So it just kind of made sense. And when I was on the phone with him saying hey, if you have worked and you don't, whatever, I just when he agreed to come, I got so giddy inside. And I said something, I'm hyper Michaela today. He's like, I've never met hyper Michaela before. And I was like, oh, she doesn't come out very often. And then we said goodbye, hung up, and then I just waited for him to come get me. And I thought about it after I hung up the phone with him. And I just realized I hadn't seen hyper Michaela in years. And hyper is what I used to describe it, but it was giddy, joyful, and just happy. And I just realized those parts of myself had been suppressed for so long. And if you have listened to the Western Hippie Podcast, I'll get deeper into other episodes in this podcast, but you know that I've been on a healing journey for quite some time. The short back version of the story, I experienced sexual abuse twice before the age, childhood sexual abuse twice before the age of 13. And so I did have a lot of repressed trauma. And since learning about trauma and the body and how it works is when we really start to heal is when we feel safe. And those were things that I didn't have the words to put to with him, but because he allowed me to feel safe, I did feel safe with him. My guard started to let down, and these parts of myself were able to start coming out. And this is what I believe is happening with Taylor Swift. And since she has gotten to, I was going to say Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce, but that doesn't feel fully accurate. But this seems to be happening with Taylor Swift since she and Travis Kelce got together. And I know there's some people that believe this relationship is staged, it's fake. Honestly, if it is, I'm just going to be absolutely done with the whole thing. But there are some things I really don't believe we can fake, and feeling safe and like seeing this child like Taylor start to come out again. I truly don't think that can be faked. And I'm saying this from someone who, one, I have done acting and I've taken acting classes. And two, it, it's just like a side effect of safety. And I have this feeling like when I see videos of Taylor with Travis, I think she forgot about these parts of herself as well. Like the music industry can make you hard, it can make you more masculine. And I think being with him and her feeling safe and being allowed to express these parts, the videos I've seen, I just hope no one can fake that. But two, I really truly don't think she is. And so having had a similar experience in my past of someone who was very masculine, very, and like still have a pattern of it, and very like protecting myself, and then having this man come into my life, allowing me to feel safe and watching these parts of me come back out, I wanted to explain this from my perspective because that is what I think we're seeing. And that's why I also think this album feels a lot different than her albums past in the past, because when we feel safe and when these parts of ourselves can start coming out, of course different things are going to be expressed. Of course we're going to write differently. Of course we're going to have different art. And again, as someone who identifies as a creative, like I have a nonfiction book and I'm also working on a fiction book. And in this fiction book, like there were parts I never would have written had I not met this man when I was 19 and started rediscovering these parts of myself. So, I also, for some reason, feel really, so that's the inspiration behind this episode, if you will. And I kind of also wanted to talk about my experience with Taylor Swift, like how I am here, because becoming a Swiftie in 2025 was not on my bingo card at all. It was not on the cards. I could not have predicted this at all. At all. So, but what's interesting is I've actually been aware of Taylor Swift from the very beginning because I am a country music nerd at heart. And I just love country music. And so when Taylor Swift came on the country scene, like everyone knew who she was. And I did not like her. I didn't like the song. I didn't like how she sounded. I did find out when I found out she was 16. And let's see, I'm fifth grade when all this is going on. And even at fifth grade, and I had a very particular taste in music. I knew what I liked. I knew what I didn't like. And what I didn't like, I was very clear about how and why I didn't like it. How and why are we the way we are at even such a young age? I have no idea, but I was very opinionated about it. And so I wasn't really a fan of her voice. I wasn't really a fan of the song. I thought it was cheesy. I thought it was corny. Found out she was 16. And even when I was in fifth grade, I'm like, okay, a 16-year-old would write this song. And then my mom had bought us tickets to go see George Strait in concert. And it was George Strait. There was 3 performers that night. It was George Strait, Ronnie Millsap, and then opening was Taylor Swift. And we always went early, but I was very like, I almost wanted to, with I live in Oregon, and so we would have been going to what's now the Moda Center. It was the Rose Center back then. But even then, I just was thinking, like, can we just avoid this? Like, I don't want to listen to her live, whatever. I was so pleasantly surprised when I heard her live. I thought she sounded amazing live. I loved how she owned the stage, because George Strait, if you've never seen him live, and again, not right or wrong, but my favorite country music singer is Toby Keith. And Toby Keith, if you ever saw Toby Keith live, Toby Keith was an entertainer. He was very, he had a ton of energy. He'd be running around the stage. Like, he wasn't just a singer. He was an entertainer. He was a performer, where George Strait, I would classify, again, not right or wrong, it's just different styles. But George Strait, I would very much classify as a singer. He has a round, I don't know if he still does this, but when I saw him live, he has a round stage in the center of the stadium, and there's 4 microphones, and he just walks around so everyone can kind of see him. But he's not what I would call an entertainer. He's not dancing. He's not performing. Like, even Toby, for being this Oklahoma boy, like, he would just, I just remember him doing this like motion on stage with the mic in his hand. Just, and maybe that was from Toby being a football player. I don't know. But, and Taylor, even for what she had to work with at 16, had just a way of owning the crowd. And mind you, she's only got her debut album out at this point. And the other thing that, even at that age, amazed me about Taylor Swift was her innovation and her ability to almost be ahead of her time. I had been to quite a few concerts at this point, and nobody was turning what we would call the flashlight on our phone now, but no one was turning the lights on the back of our camera on our phone, dimming the lights and doing the whole sway thing. No one was doing that. Taylor Swift was. I don't know where she saw it. I don't know how she thought of it, but she did that, I believe, for Teardrops on My Guitar. And I was just blown away about how this young girl once sounded, how she can own the room even at that age, and how she just had these innovative ideas that seemed very ahead of her time. And then before she got off the stage, she had announced, like, hey, I'm going to be signing autographs. We're going to stay until I've signed every autograph or until they kick us out. I don't know what happened first, but when we went out to get t-shirts, there was a line, and everyone said she really would. She would stay until everyone that wanted an autograph and a picture had gotten it, or until they would quite literally kick them out. And sometimes I heard she would even just go outside and do it out there. So I was amazed at her dedication of like building this really, even at that age, building this really loyal fan base and making these one-on-one connections with the people who were listening to her music. And it's honestly kind of crazy because we had walked by the line and there wasn't a ton of security back then. This was probably, well, I'm 30, and if I was fifth grade, I would have been 11. So I'll let you do the math because I don't want to do the math, however many years ago. And it's kind of crazy just to think when we walked by, she was just right there, that I was like 20 feet away from Taylor Swift at one point in my life, knowing what she has become now. So the other interesting thing about my journey with Taylor Swift is, even though after that concert, I ended up going and buying and purchasing the debut album, but I didn't become like a Taylor Swift fan. And I don't know why this is, but I don't think the way her voice sounds live versus the way that it's processed on the albums, I still think she sounds 10 times better live than on anything recorded. Since she's gone to pop and it's a little bit more like there's more, I don't really know what it's called, production, I guess. I do think her voice sounds really good on her albums, but I still never thought it did her justice as well as like listening to her live. Because even listening to her live over the TV, like never came, in my opinion, never came across very well. But she live in person sounded very, very good. And so still wasn't a fan. And then I think when I was middle school, so around 13, my cousin loved the Fearless album. So kind of as a side effect, I started listening to the Fearless album, and there's a song on there called Hey Steven that my cousin and I both really loved. So again, still like really reluctant, but I listened to the Fearless album because of my cousin. Other than that, after that moment, I just heard like the Taylor Swift hits. So I remember hearing I Knew You Were Trouble, Blank Space, never listened to the albums, never purchased the albums. I don't even think I own like the Fearless album. And what really started happening was a year and a half ago, I think it might have been 2 years ago now. There was a song on TikTok that was sped up. So you know how people will take audios for TikTok, they'll speed them up. And I heard the lyrics, don't blame me, love made me crazy. If it doesn't, you ain't doing it right. Lord, take me, my drug is my baby. I'll be doing it for the rest of my life. And I was like, I don't know what kind of lyrical genius wrote this, but I need to find out who it is. So pop open a Google tab, type in who wrote the TikTok, and I wrote the Don't Blame Me. And I like my jaw just dropped to the floor when I realized it was Taylor Swift. And in hindsight, it's like so obvious that it was Taylor Swift. But as someone who, as I said, was just completely out of this Taylor Swift sphere, like I don't even think I heard the term Swifties until I had got on TikTok. Like I was very out of the loop and very okay with that. And I was just like, what do you mean this is Taylor Swift? And now for the last year and a half or 2 years, that's been one of the most played songs on my phone. And so I feel like this whole Taylor Swiftie thing has been knocking on my door for a while, but I've been reluctant. And then finally, I have a friend that's really big Swiftie. I text her. I was like, screw it. Where do I start? And really, I also gained respect for her doing I do want to go back a little bit. I gained a ton of respect for her when she went pop, because country music, we'll call it like the dark times, the bro country era, it was pop music. They were playing pop music, but they called it country because people were talking about trucks and cowboy hats. And the thing that always offended me as someone who considers myself a country person, I suppose, is country is very much an internal state of being. It's an internal feeling. Like I got so upset, not pissed. pissed would be the correct word. I got so pissed when people were like crap talking Morgan Wade because like she doesn't look country. She has tattoos. Like if you've never seen or heard of Morgan Wade, she has a very similar, like as far as look and styles and tattoos, like Jelly Roll, Post Malone, and Morgan Wade have a very similar just look and edge to them. And the thing that people were missing is the heart of country music is two truths and a chord with more of the like steel guitar, like it's a less production value. Like to me, at its core, that is country music, and Morgan Wade has every piece of that puzzle, in my opinion. Like this stuff, if you've never heard her, I highly encourage you to go listen to her. Like, I mean, she talks about being suicidal, being on pills. Like, you don't get more honest than that. And I think the other thing people realize is that's always been prevalent in country. It was just more behind closed doors at one point, because I think people who sang country music felt an obligation to put more of a Christian front at some times. But it's always been there. And so during that era, when Taylor Swift it's kind of ironic because my favorite song on her new album, The Life of a Showgirl's Father Figure, but like I was going to say, she had the bigger balls to see like my music's going this way. I need to switch genres. Even though I wasn't listening to her music, I gained a ton of respect for that, because she could have stayed country and could have done all of that, and she didn't. And I felt like she did the right thing. I hope for her, but also for the music industry, and just respected the heck out of her for it. So still, again, wasn't getting into the music up until, I would hear her songs going viral on TikTok. After the Don't Blame Me, I heard Anti-Hero and could just really relate to people perceiving you one way, like people not really getting to know you, just knowing their perception of you and then judging you for their own perception, not who you are as a person, and having this like hero villain kind of, it's almost like a tightrope where you're kind of teeter-tottering. It's like, am I going to go this way? Am I going to go that way? And I feel like Anti-Hero just put those into words better than I could have. And maybe not, but you know what I mean? And I just thought it was beautiful. So again, it was reluctantly and like slowly listening to all this, and then would hear these songs going viral on TikTok, and finally just said to myself, Michaela, just do it. Like, just go all in, just do it. Binge your albums, see what you like, what you don't like. And what's interesting is I've gotten through some of the, I'm like just getting started. I feel like I'm just getting started now that her new album's out. I'm just really enjoying it. So, and Father Figure, I feel like kind of similar to Anti-Hero, has this, villain, it's got that kind of double side. It's like, am I the hero? Am I the villain? It depends on who's looking at me and what they decide. And that's been like very much a journey for me, is like, who do I know myself to be, and anchoring into that and not letting people's perceptions of me control how I see me. And I think Taylor Swift has done that better than anybody. And the last thing that I just want to say about like my own journey with Taylor Swift is like, she truly, and what really changed, I guess actually now that I'm saying this out loud, what really, I said screw it to dive full in on the Taylor Swift thing, was the New Heights podcast, because I realized how much she does love what she does. And I actually think the proof is just in the pudding there, because how many people start that career at 16 and still stay at the top where she is? I don't think you can do that without loving what you do. And I'll talk about Miley Cyrus a little bit later. But Miley Cyrus has even said on podcasts, like, she's living her mom's dream. And where I do think Miley Cyrus loves to write, I do think she loves to sing, she also did it kind of following her mom's dreams, where this really feels like it's Taylor Swift's dream. And I think that shows in Taylor's ability to stay at the top of the charts as long as she has, because most people that start this at 16, and even if you look at LeAnn Rimes, who started, I believe, at like 14, they burn out because they're not doing it for them. They're not being pulled to do it. They're being pushed to do it. And you can only be pushed so far, and we're going to give out and we're going to give in. So that's the other respect I have for her, is her to be able to use what most people would consider bad publicity, turn it into good momentum, and also stay like doing what she loves, and then stay so anchored into herself, and not letting all of this, because I mean, I don't think anyone really, her and Trump probably, like as far as media coming after them, have the most media coming after them, and the way she handles it, like I actually think Trump should take lessons from her, because she just really navigates it, in my opinion, really beautifully. And even with, the re-records and her staying, again, what I believe is true to herself, just have gained insane amount of respect for her. And one of the things with talking about all of that, I think we have so much to learn from her. But then this next thing, which was the inspiration behind this show in the first place, is this other thing that we have to learn from her, and that it's okay to change. And so, what I mentioned at the beginning of this episode of us having a trauma self versus a true self and not being able to differentiate the two sometimes, it's because we can't differentiate the two until we start to feel safe. And the way that I like to word it, and I wish I had a visual here in front of me, but I don't. So follow along with me. But imagine, like, I'll put my arm up, but imagine my arm is like covered in just a bunch of paper towels and it's rolled and rolled and rolled and rolled. Well, we confuse the paper towels for who we really are, when who we really are would be like my arm. And feeling safe and doing trauma work is unwinding those paper towels and letting, in this case, my arm or your arm, for the metaphor, being revealed, letting the true self be revealed. And again, it's not that all these other parts aren't parts of Taylor, but I know with her, there is this big of like, who is the real Taylor and all of that. And it's like, maybe she too is just rediscovering the real Taylor. And I think what we can do, learn from her and be inspired by her, is just to start to get curious. Like, maybe who I'm being is not who I am at my core. Maybe who I'm being is someone who was scared and in survival and was just doing what he or she could to survive all these past circumstances that I've lived through. And maybe we can start to enter a time where we can have that fairy tale. Because the other thing that I think is so inspiring about her story, and this is like some wordplay that I've been playing with, is like Travis Kelce or bust. Like, as far as a partner goes, whether you're a man or a woman, whether you're attracted to men or women, like, you get your Travis Kelce partner, and for Travis, probably your Taylor Swift partner, and you don't settle for anything less. But the way that we do that, because if we say we feel like we deserve something, but we don't have it, we actually don't feel like we deserve it. And so the work then becomes, how do I raise, my belief system so that I don't feel that I deserve it, but I know that I deserve it, because that's when it starts to come in. And I'm not going to talk about this here. I'll probably do another episode on it, but I actually think her taking a stand and being like, no matter what, I'm doing the re-records, I'm going to get my albums back. I actually think that made her belief system a match to attract a partner like Kelce, where they do seem to complement each other very well. Again, the videos I've seen, like, I haven't seen her smiling like that. I haven't seen her like dancing like that. And even, as she's doing this press tour for Life of a Showgirl, people ask her about her ring, and she's like, every time I look at it, I just get to remind myself I get to spend the rest of my life with this person. And she talks about it being a symbol that she does get to spend like her life with this person. And we all like are here to achieve that. And I think the other beautiful thing is, she, quote unquote, hasn't got her fairy tale till I think she's 30. She was 89. She's 30 something, right? And so many of us think, we've missed the ball, but it's like, we haven't. We just have to be ready to catch the right one. And that's where this unwinding is doing phone. I don't know what my phone is doing to me today, because I'm on, I've put my phone and computer, it's happened in the last episode too, but I put my phone, so I have Macs, and then when I put my phone on Do Not Disturb, it goes automatically to my Mac. So I did that, and then my Mac dinged on the first episode I was recording. And so anyway, we'll work on that. But that's where the work becomes, is training ourselves to catch the ball that we're meant to catch. And getting our belief systems and stuff up to the point where we can catch what's meant for us. Because even the thing that I've experienced as I've been unwinding this paper towel of mine is, I could catch the ball, but I couldn't hold the ball. I couldn't keep the ball. And that's just as powerful and as impactful too. So I'm actually just going to check my notes here to see that I, covered everything that I wanted to cover for this episode, because I have some bullet points that I just wanted to check. But yeah, I think that's just what I'm going to end with today, is just to start, for all of us to start to get curious and to learn from Taylor, like, hey, maybe who I'm being is not who I actually am. And how can I start to unwind this paper towel? Because at our core, like, when we think about a baby doesn't wonder, like, do I deserve a bottle? am I worthy of a bottle? Like they just cry. It's like, I need the damn bottle. I'm going to cry. Get me the damn bottle. Like that's how, God or source, whatever you want to call that, higher power, like that's how we were designed to be. It's like we unlearned that. So didn't think we were going to go from Taylor Swift to Yoda, but in the words of Yoda, we must unlearn what we have learned, because it's not how we are that's the problem. It's been who we had to become in order to survive. That's the problem. So that's the question I'm going to leave you with today. What must you unlearn what you have learned? You know what I mean? That didn't come out as smoothly as I wanted it to, but you got the point. So thank you for listening to the second episode of the Miss Michaela Mae Show. I'm so thankful you're here. So thankful you're on this journey with me. If you enjoyed this episode, please rate and review. I love reading the reviews. I love hearing about what you want to listen to, what you would love to hear more about. It just helps give me inspiration for the show. So if you feel so called to do that, I would be honored. That is all I have for today. Thank you for tuning in, and I will talk to you next time.